My name is Peter Parfitt. Welcome to the new Brit workshop. Information security is something that all of us need to take an interest in, whether it's at the basic level of just making sure that our phone book and email address list doesn't get into the wrong hands, or more serious matters about looking after your bank and credit card details. And on the far side, there's also making sure that you don't lose sufficient information to give away your personal identity. Now, information security itself is about looking after the integrity of your information. That's making sure that it's not changed, not damaged, and certainly not destroyed. It's also about looking after the availability, making sure that you can get at your information whenever you need to. And finally, it's about looking after the confidentiality of your information, keeping what you consider to be private, private. Now, the threats fall into three categories. The first is the physical threat. And here we're talking about people gaining access to your information, whether it's on your computer or on your shorthand notepad or wherever it might be. And then once they've gained access, they can exploit the information that they find. They might steal it, they might damage it, they might destroy it, or they might just copy it and use it against you at a later stage. Then there's the electronic threat, and here we're talking about eavesdropping, what in America I think they probably call wiretaps, and also other electronic measures, perhaps using radio microphones and things like that to eavesdrop on what you're up to. And then finally, there's the ever-growing cyber threat. And the cyber threat is one which is really probably the greatest threat to us all. People can plant programs called Trojans on your computer, and they can do it remotely. They send you an email, you click on the email, and suddenly, without you realizing it, there's a little program installed on your computer which does things. It might monitor all your keystrokes, particularly bad when you're entering credit card details, and all those keystrokes are then relayed to whoever this nasty person might be. There's other types of action that can happen in the cyber world. Your information can be damaged, you can be denied access to it, and in many cases you can lose control of your data. Perhaps people posting photographs of you that once you considered to be private, and now they're being made very public. Now, why do we need to worry about this? Well, first of all and foremost, you need to look after your identity, all of the information that goes into making up your identity. And you need to protect that because you want to prevent people from impersonating you. That's people who might be taking out bank loans in your name, people who might be spending money on your credit card, things like that. You need to prevent sensitive information from getting into the wrong hands. And this again is similar to the identity thing. You don't want people to have your bank card, credit card details, but you don't want people to impersonate you. You don't want people to have the ability to blackmail you or to exploit anything about you based on the information that they've discovered. You want to prevent fraud and protect your interests. And of course, ultimately, you want to ensure you've got peace of mind. Now, there are some general tips. Don't be fooled by people who cold call you, whether it's on the telephone or people who send you messages, emails on the internet or whatever it might be. Never give any information to these people. And if it's a bank or credit card company, they will not cold call you and then ask you for your credit card number or your bank account number, and they will not ask you for the PIN number associated with that account. So if you get a cold call, people start asking questions like that, asking you to divulge anything which is part of your private data, do not give data away. If you have paper forms of information, your bank statement, your credit card statement, or those little slips you get when you spend things on your credit card, then make sure you shred them, burn them, or digest them in some way. Now, a lot of sites that we have transactions with on the internet asks for ask for details like your mother's maiden name. I don't think there's a database that links mother's maiden names with other people's names. So after a while, if you always use your real mother's maiden name, then sooner or later 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 people know that bit of personal information about you. And it might not be a bad idea to have some fictitious mother's maiden names, particularly when you're doing transactions with sites that you're not quite sure about. Never volunteer information. If you're not asked for it, don't start telling them extra information about when you're going away on holiday, about any other type of business that you do on the internet, and so on. Be very careful with social media. Social media is perhaps one of the easiest ways for people to lose vital parts of their personal information. Be careful what you give away. Don't become complacent, and be very wary of trusting people that you've never met. And if you're able to, use a secure database for all your key personal information, a place where you can keep all your PIN numbers recorded, all your passwords recorded, and so on. A secure database or some form of encryption on a file where you keep that information is a really good thing to have. Now, I'm going to give you some tips about credit and bank cards, and forgive me if I'm teaching you to suck eggs here. Never let your bank or credit card out of your sight. There was a scam in the UK not so long ago whereby you went into a petrol station to buy fuel. The guy would take your card, he would swipe it through the proper machine so that he can record the transaction, but then he would bend down below the counter and swipe it again on his own little machine, which was just a recorder that recorded the data on that credit card. He was then able to look at the 3-digit code number on the back of the card, and with that information he was then able to start using the credit card account fraudulently. So one has to watch out for that. If there's a card machine for customer use, perhaps in a restaurant or whatever, make sure you're the one that uses it. Don't let the waitress or waiter or anybody else use the machine with your card unnecessarily. The less chance you give people to handle your credit and bank cards, the better. Don't write your PIN numbers down. That may sound jolly obvious, but it's not so easy these days when you've got to have a different PIN for every card. But you've got to have some scheme of being able to remember the PINs for those cards that you carry around with you, but it shouldn't be written down. Make sure those PIN numbers are random. Don't use 1111, 1234, or anything really simple. Try and get something just a little bit more random. And don't make it easy for these fraudsters. Don't leave credit card slips lying around, don't throw them away. Always make sure you do everything in your own interests to protect your security. When you're entering a PIN number in one of those machines, cover your hand so nobody can see your PIN number. Beware of overly generous discounts on websites. If you're trying to buy a camera, it should be £400, and you find on a website you can get it for 200, then you should be a little bit wary. Do some checking up about the people that run that website before you enter your credit card details and try and make a purchase, because it's happened quite a few times, certainly in the UK, that these scam organizations have set themselves up with very generous discounts, and they've hoodwinked a lot of people into giving away their credit and bank card details. And the final one with credit and bank cards is beware of people who telephone you and say, "Oh, hello, Mr. Green, this is the Snodgrass bank here. Your bank card's been compromised. We're sending a courier to collect it, and you will get a new one delivered in the post." And lo and behold, the following day, a courier arrives and he takes your bank card or your credit card, whatever it might be, away with you. And as he's there, he says, "Oh, for my record, sir, Mr. Green, I've got to write down the PIN code that goes with this because we've had some more fraud on your card." And lo and behold, you've given away your card, you've given away your PIN, you think it's all bona fide because someone's come to your house to collect it. But no, it's just another scam. Now, there are loads and loads of things to do with computers and tablets and smartphones that you need to be aware of. And I can't list them all, but just let me give you a few tips. Make sure you've got some good antivirus software running on your PCs, and make sure you use a firewall. And firewalls is something that I'm getting interested in, and I'll be perhaps making a video sometime in the not too distant future when I install my own brand new firewall. Avoid publicly available Wi-Fi networks, certainly those which don't have any form of encryption. Those freely open networks, you should be very careful, because anybody sitting on one of those networks can see what everybody else is doing. There are loads and loads of different email scams, phishing trips, that's phishing, that's PH type phishing, where people are trying to get information from you, or people are trying to plant little programs in your PC or whatever, or smartphone, to make it do nasty things. Be very wary of opening an email and then clicking on any part of that email, because it may be the trigger for one of these nasty programs to be installed, or some other way being set up to suck your personal data. If you've got sensitive data and you want to keep it on a PC, encrypt it in some way. Now, at the very simplest level, Microsoft Word has the ability to allow you to encrypt individual files, but there are better ways of doing it than that. And never let your smartphone, your tablet PC, your notebook computer out of your control. If you leave it somewhere, make sure it's left under lock and key. Don't leave it anywhere that someone can get hold of it and start doing nasty things to it. Use long PIN numbers, use long passwords. 15, 16, 17, 18 characters long. Your passwords should be as long as possible. And don't worry about trying to remember them, because you're going to have this little encrypted file where you keep a record of them. And make them as random as possible. Don't have your dog's friend's name and your wife's maiden name and all the rest of it. Make sure it's something truly random, and if possible consisting of non-alphanumeric characters as well. Use multiple mothers' maiden names when you log onto websites. I've mentioned that before. And be very careful when you're using blogs and social media. For example, you're on your social media, whatever it might be, and you put up a picture of your birthday party, which was yesterday, and you tell everybody what a great time you had. Well, there we go. Your date of birth is now public. That's just one chink in the armor of your personal data. So in summary, in this very short introduction to information security, don't give information away willingly. Be very careful. Use sensible PINs and passwords. Be vigilant when you're online. Beware of cold callers, and use security software. And beware of free Wi-Fi networks. Now, this has been a short and sweet, fairly dry look at information security, but I'm doing it as a precursor to some other work which perhaps I'll relay to you via video. And I think everybody should take a keen interest in security these days. Thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.